What's going on, seniors? Today's May 26th. It's a Tuesday. It's 9:45 in the morning here. Um, Hopefully, y'all are staying cool in the very warm weather that we've been having the past few days. I know yesterday it was super hot. Today's supposed to even be hotter, so I'm probably just gonna stay inside all day, kick back. I don't know what else I'm gonna do. We'll figure it out. Back at it again. We're gonna do some more slides today. At the rate we'll go, since we're gonna skip over a lot of these slides, I'm looking now, probably done by next week. And then at that point, I'll post a final for those of you who want to do it. And then we'll go from there. And then graduation will happen, and then y'all are on to the next stage of your life. So we'll get to there when we get to there. But for now, let's just focus on getting through as many slides in each video as we can. Today we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to talk about a lot of things actually. We're going to talk about income, what that means, like disposable income and like discretionary income, taxes a little bit more, just as kind of a refresher, and Social Security. And yeah, we'll kind of bounce off the walls a little bit today, but that's kind of what this whole last unit is anyways. All right, so let's get right into it to slide 11 here. So we're talking about income, and the first income we want to talk about is disposable income. So income is now we're talking about like the income that someone makes. Like I make an income, if you have a job, you make an income, so on and so forth. That's the amount of money that, and we're talking about disposable income. It's the amount of money that households have available for spending and saving after taxes on your income have been accounted for. So, let's say taxes are 30% and I make $100,000 a year. That means I'd have to pay $30,000 in taxes, and my disposable income, so what I'd have left would be 70,000. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm making 20 an hour and I work 10 hours a day. That means I'm making $200 a day times 5 days a week. Oh, I'm making $1,000 a week." And then people start like thinking they can spend like that amount. The reality is they don't have that amount because they don't factor in taxes. You always have to factor in taxes. So whenever you get a job, whenever you start thinking, "Oh, I'll make this much money," remember a chunk's going to get taken out for taxes. So don't don't start swiping your credit card or buying big purchases on things that you're going to realize soon enough, "Oh, I really don't have that much money." Let's go to discretionary. Discretionary income is the amount of an individual incomes that's left just for spending, investing, or saving after after taxes, obviously, and then personal necessities. So food, shelter, clothing have been paid. Think of it a budget. Again, same concept. A lot of people, "Oh, I got this big job. I'm making $1,000 a week. This is gonna be lit. I'm just gonna swipe my credit card. I'm gonna buy all the video games on the Switch. Okay, I'm gonna keep buying." But people, they get the saucer eyes, right? The big pie eyes, and they don't plan for budgeting and they're not careful with their money. At your age, even to my point now, it's not like I'm, especially where we live, it's not like I'm raking in the dough. I do okay, but when you're younger, you have to be really careful about budgeting. And, I've had a lot of friends who have made financial mistakes that they're going to really struggle to overcome and pay off because they start buying and spending and making investments that they had to pay off, like buying a new car at 18. You don't need, I'm going to be real. Biggest piece of advice: don't get a new car unless you absolutely have to get a new car, because that is the biggest payment you're probably, a lot of you are going to have to make. It's hundreds of dollars a month after you make a down payment. At the end of the day, if you can take the bus, if you can ride a bike, if you can get in with your friends or something else, or you can walk places, do that. A car takes gas. It's a lot of money. Things break down. So I've had a lot of friends buy brand new cars, and then all of a sudden they still got to pay the car payment, and then they got to pay the insurance, and then they got to pay for the gas, and then something breaks down, and all that, it adds up. And when you're not making a lot of money, having a car a lot of times acts as an anchor. So I'm pretty, I was I'm pretty glad I never went and got a new car, and I've been driving that minivan around forever, because it's kept me humble, it's kept me grounded, and I haven't had to been paying huge payments on a car. Now, if you got the money for it and you really need it, go for it. But something like a car, or buying, like a couple years ago, we had kids who used to buy like all the Supreme stuff, which was dumb to me because it's at your age, it just doesn't make sense. You don't have enough money. And, I would always talk to the kids and be like, oh, I'm going to flip them, Mr. Tomei, and make my money. And, it never really worked out that way. But the reality is, young, for the next 8 to 10 years, save your money. Save your money. Be more of a saver. That's until you get into your 30s and you're established, like, save your money. That's my advice to you. All right, let's go to 13. We'll talk about Social Security. You've probably heard about this before, at least a Social Security card. Pretty much, so what Social Security is it's a way to create a savings for elderly people when they retire. It was created after the Great Depression because the Great Depression, a lot of people lost their retirements, kind of more than really in any other point in modern financial history. And there was no government program in place to take care of people, especially our elderly, who had lost all their money. And so, as at the time, a lot of politicians were like, look, we got to create something, a system that's going to help older people. And so every American citizen, you're going to get Social Security. If you have a Social Security card, a number, when you hit age 65, you're going to collect Social Security. Now, it's not a ton of money, right? But it's enough to meet a lot of the bare necessities: food, clothing, little spending purchases. But you're going to need more, especially if you want to live here in the Bay Area or anywhere really that's in a populated area where things are going to be more expensive, unless you want to live out in the sticks. If you want to survive, you're going to have more than just Social Security. So you're going to have investments in a retirement fund or a 401k, and we'll get to that. But just know the good news is, worst case scenario, at least when you retire, you'll collect Social Security. The way Social Security works, it's pretty simple. Right now, everyone is paying into that system, but we don't get to collect till we're 65. So right now, we're paying for the older people who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on, right? Then when we get to that point, the people beneath us who are going to be in their 20s and 30s when we're in our 60s, 70s, 80s, they're going to pay into a system that takes care of us. So the cycle continues, right? That's how Social Security works, okay? We got 3 more slides to go. Okay. Next one, federal tax. Is pretty straightforward. On your pay stub, the next time you get paid, the next time you ever get a paycheck, look at your pay stub and you'll see FEDTX, which means federal tax. Federal tax pays for all the national government stuff. Think, like bailing out the economy right now with the coronavirus or paying for the military. That's all federal tax stuff. Okay. That's usually the biggest chunk of where your taxes are going to go, because obviously the federal tax or the federal government has a really large budget and they need to make sure that, they have enough money to run the country. So they're going to take a lot of money out. Then we got the state tax. Okay. And now you're going to see, and what's really interesting, this was my advice to you, look at the map that's on the, that I've included in the PowerPoint slide. And this is going to show you the percentage of your income per each state where taxes are taken out to pay for state programs. Now you'll notice certain states don't have a state income tax. Florida, Texas, Nevada, Washington, some you might know. But then you look at California. We have the highest state tax in the entire country at 10.3%. Oregon's just behind us at 9.9. Actually, I should take that back. Hawaii's at 11%, but they're Hawaii. Do they count? Okay. But if we're talking mainland United States, by far it's California. And so you're probably wondering, well, why do some states have a really high tax? Why do some states have a low tax? Why do some states have no income tax? Well, it's a good question. A lot of it has to do with politics. It has to do with the philosophies and the culture of the people. Okay. So in states where nobody wants to live, let's look at Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, right? These are places where to attract people to live there, they're going to have generally a lower state tax. Furthermore, these are areas that, for the most part, don't need nearly the same amount of tax revenue for their state budgets because their populations are pretty rural. They're sparsely populated states. Like Wyoming has less people than San Francisco in the entire state. So again, there's a greater demand in more populated areas. Okay. But then you're probably wondering, well, Mr. Tomei, Texas and Florida, a lot of people live there. Those are big states, right? So how is there no income tax? Well, they make up their taxes through other ways. Because remember, there's always going to be a way you're going to get screwed over. So Texans or Floridians, they're going to get hurt more on a sales tax or property taxes or other types of taxes when you purchase things in those states to make up for the lack of a income tax. So that's kind of the catch-22. Sure, there's no income tax, which is nice, but the sales tax or property taxes, they're going to kind of make up a big chunk of reclaiming taxes in those states. So typically you're going to see states that are going to be more conservative, less populated. They're going to stay away from an income tax, whereas you see states that are typically more progressive or liberal. It's not universal, it's not perfect, but they're going to have higher income taxes. Oregon is a unique example too, because Oregon has a really high state tax, and that's also because they don't have a sales tax, so they have to have a higher income tax to make up for the tax revenue. Okay, so keep this in mind. A lot of people move to Nevada because there's no state income tax, and a lot of people, it's close enough. I've known a lot of people have gone out to Vegas. That's a big population trend. A lot of people are going out that way. If you're okay living in the hot desert and you're okay living out where there's nothing else to do except casinos in Vegas, right? And you want to live that lifestyle, it would work for you. But I always am cautious to tell people, if you leave California, it'll be very, very hard for you to ever come back at the way things cost, because you're never going to be making the same amount of money that you'd make in California. There are exceptions, but 90% of the time you leave the state, you're going to take a pay cut. And then to get back in the state, to buy a home, to rent, you're not going to have the money necessary to get back in. So be careful. A lot of people complain, oh, it's so expensive. We got the best weather, best food, best culture and people, beautiful views, everything you want to do, right? Yeah, it's expensive, but we have the best of pretty much everything. I would be careful if you really don't. If you leave, you might never come back. The only other state you could probably make it back from is maybe New York, if you lived in New York City, or maybe some other big cities across the country. But if you go Texas, Florida, you're going to be in trouble. So keep that in mind. Okay, last slide for the day. This is a 401k. We've talked about this before, but this is a basic retirement account. Most places of employment pull money out of your paycheck and save it for later on. They usually bring someone to the company and say, hey, do you want to sign up for a 401k? You should say yes. And you can control how much money can be put into that account. It's just a good decision. It's good to have a backup retirement plan outside of Social Security, because you're going to need more than just Social Security to survive. So when you get your big adult job 5-6 years down the road, and you remember them, ask them about a 401k, or ask them if they have that. If you work for if you end up becoming a teacher like me, we don't have 401ks. We have two things. We have essentially what's a 401k. It's just funded differently. It's legal mumbo jumbo, but it's called a 403b. So if you're ever be working like education, you'll probably have that. And then we also have a thing called CalSTRS, which is like our own teachers like pension, which is really good too. But that's not really applicable to you. But when the time comes, ask about a 401k because you need to have more than just Social Security. If there's anything you learn from this video, have more than just Social Security and start investing early because you'll be thankful in the later on that you did. Okay. That's where we're going to end today. We'll pick up some more stuff in the next video. But take care, and I will see you in the next video.